Well, I've wanted to do it for a while, probably 3 years. Probably 3 years ago is when I got the idea. I mean, I grew up in St. Louis, and I lived there for 32 years. And I think I've been away from St. Louis for 16 years now. I live in Texas now. And really getting away from St. Louis made me start to super appreciate growing up in St. Louis and being around all this great music. And I worked at this music store right out of high school for 10 years. And Chuck Berry came in the store. His piano player, Johnny Johnson, came in the store. Got to be friends with Chuck's son. I opened up for him. And there was just all these connections, and then everybody in town played with him, and they played like him. You had to learn to play his music if you were going to get these gigs, you know, playing in cover bands. And just such a part of like everything I've learned to do. And I just had this idea. Before he passed away, I had this idea, you know, and it was just, it was not an easy project. So it took a couple of years to kind of get the record label on board for it. And I got them on board last year, and we worked on it for about 9 months. Yeah, there's 21 guest guitar players on 20 songs. I mean, the whole idea behind it was to celebrate Chuck Berry, but also, I mean, I'm a huge guitar fan, and so I love it. And I'm friends with all these amazing guitar players, you know, some that I've been just a fan of for years, and some of them gotten to become good friends with. And they are all influenced by Chuck Berry. So in January, we started cutting tracks, and the last tracks from guitar players showed up around the middle of July. So six or 7 months of the basic tracks were cut in a couple of days, but then it took 6 months to wait for all the guitar players to send their tracks back. And then there was another process where I get the track back, then I have to go back and play and sing again, kind of match, so it didn't want it to just sound like somebody was canned, and was trying to make it like we were together. So we put a lot of effort into the production of it. Albert Castiglia, Jeremiah Johnson, they were both at my studio with me, and they cut their parts. But the band was just the piano, drums, bass, guitar, me, 20 songs in like 2 days. So that was the hard part. No one said no, which was great. I had more people than I needed. I mean, I could make another record if they would let me. You know, I mean, I had a lot of guitar players who wanted to get into it. Everybody was great, but I went into this with all this prep time, and so I knew it was going to take that long. Like, I left the window open, because if you're going to try to get these guys to commit, you got to give them 4 or 5 months, because they're going to be touring and stuff. So that was the big winner, was they were like, well, I don't know, I won't have time. And I said, well, I don't need it till June. And it was January. Oh, okay, yeah, all right, man, I'll do my best, you know. And everybody turned them in. I didn't lose anybody, you know. Everybody turned it in. So, I mean, there were very obvious choices for me. I kind of did that. I mean, to me, it was like, well, Walter Trout's going to play Johnny Be Good because he's a hero of mine. Chuck Berry is our hero. It's the most common song. And Walter's not going to play it like anybody else. He's going to play it like Walter. And that's what I wanted. It was going to be very punk, garage band sounding. But there's the guitarist from Testament, Alex Skolnick. Now, that's a metal band, a very famous metal band. But I've got to be great friends with him, and I'm a big fan. So we did Downbound Train, which is a Chuck Berry song that's not as common. It's kind of a rockabilly minor song, you know, and I just tried to think of people's personalities and the way they play. And we did not do all of the Johnny Be Good style song. There's a lot of songs that start off with that intro, Nadine and Carol and just all these songs. So I just tried to find different songs and tried to place them with what I thought would work. You know, Sonny Landreth played Havana Moon. Like, that has this kind of calypso, Cuban. I was like, oh, absolutely. Sonny Landreth's going to play like a steel, pedal steel sound. Or so the most choices I ever gave anybody were 2 songs. I would say, okay, hey, how about one of these 2? But most people, I just kind of picked the song for them. And I said, hey, I got this song, what you play on? It just kind of made sense. You know, that they're all friends of mine, and we all care about each other, and we're all equally supportive, and I think that's awesome, because I don't know if that's common everywhere, but it's awesome in the blues and the blues rock world, because I'm a fan of all these guys, you know. So them to help me do this just meant a lot, you know, and they did it for, you know, some of them for nothing and for very little, for, you know, everyone just like, yeah, no problem, we'd help each other out. So it's pretty awesome, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm very proud of it, I am. Well, you know, one thing that I think that's it's important for me is to make sure, and I think once people hear the record, you know, they realize the sincerity behind it, that I truly do. I mean, I just love Chuck Berry and his music and the songs and the contribution to America, and playing those songs and singing them, it just made me think, gosh, this could be famous all over again. This music is timeless, and so I hope people know that we enjoyed it. Certainly wasn't trying to just, sometimes when people do tributes, they just kind of throw things together, and we spent a good lot of effort and time to make what I think is still a Mike Zito record, even though it's not my material. The way the songs are placed, the very first song is with Chuck's grandson, Charlie Berry III, who's a young 20-year-old man in St. Louis who's learning all his grandfather's licks, you know, and because it's kind of all about St. Louis to me, you know. The original artwork was painted by an artist in St. Louis. So there's, in the end, I hope it still comes off as a Mike Zito record. I tried to put this thing together and take people on a journey, you know. I remember getting to play gigs in St. Louis in the late 80s and early 90s, and you're learning songs, and you're learning, these were a lot of the songs we were learning, and getting to play them and getting that feeling that they all knew them, it was fun. I mean, I don't mean to sound old, or I don't know if that happens anymore, you know? I mean, I think it does. It happens here at Knuckleheads. They do the jam, and I see young people come out. But I think it's really important that people recognize this music, because this man was way ahead of his time. You know, it's a part of everything that's going on today. I don't know if they even know that anymore. It is very important for me to be a part of this scene and to contribute in ways other than just making money or, you know, trying to sell something. You know, I think they would be more into this music. I don't necessarily think it's the music. I think it's the medium that, you know, I've got kids and I watch them, and they don't listen to the radio. That's not how people hear music anymore. So they know this music, and I go, wow, where did you hear that, you know? I've never heard that music. Well, they hear it on Spotify or Pandora, or they get a station going, and then they get turned on to new music, and they like it. And then I start to hear some of this music, and I think, it's not very far off. It's like this music, the blues music, this genre, we need to get our music more in the just available to these young people. It needs to be more included in whatever is being played now. Because, you know, like Samantha Fish's new record, I mean, I think if all those young people hear it, they're just going to go crazy for it. It's a matter of just, her songs need to be on those playlists with new music. And I don't know what that means or how you do that. I don't know. I think they just need access to it. I think if one of her songs was on a playlist that they were listening to, whatever other new music, they would like it. I started, you know, producing, my very first record I produced was in 2010 called Girls with Guitars. That's the debut of Samantha Fish and Cassie Taylor and great artist Danny Wilde out of England. And I kind of helped bring Samantha to that. That was my first record that I professionally produced. I had produced my own records and such. And it turned out that I enjoyed doing it, and the label liked what I did. And so then my next record was Samantha Fish's Runaway album, which she won a Blues Music Award for. So I started doing more production. I really enjoy making records. It's so much fun. So that's really taken off over the past 10 years. I've produced a lot of records. So maybe 3 years ago, we built a studio. I had a building on my property out back that was like a big double garage with a upstairs. It was just kind of a shell, and man, we just spent the money and turned it into a big recording studio and started doing more records there. And it was with a partner, a friend of mine in England named Guy Hale that I became close with. And so he retired last year, and he was like, so what are we going to do? What's next? And I was like, I don't know, I'm traveling, I'm touring. I said, but maybe a record label, like something small to help new artists just kind of get going, because I've kind of learned how to do this. Some of these people they just don't even really know how to get started. So he said, all right, let's do it. So we did. And our first release was Tony Campanella, who's on stage now, from St. Louis. And it just really helped him get going. But the second record was Albert Castiglia. It's a pretty big name, because I produced his record for Roof Records, and Roof Records wasn't crazy about my production. And then they decided they didn't want to put it out. So all of a sudden, our second record, like what I thought would be a little record label where we'll take our time and do small things, the next artist we get is a guy that's, selling 10,000 records or more. And it's like, oh, so we have to like really be a record label. And so we did it. We jumped in, started hiring people and putting things together. And so here it is, October. We have 7 releases out this year. 3 that were on the Blues Music, Billboard Blues charts. Lots of airplay. I expect some blues music nominations from some of these artists. We signed Billy Price, the great Billy Price that sang with Roy Buchanan, Diana Rain, Odds Lane, Tony Campanella, Jimmy Carpenter, Albert Castiglia. And I just recorded and produced The Proven Ones, which is a great band that features Kid Ramos on guitar, rhythm section from the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and they just won Best New Band at the Blues Music Awards. So we got all this stuff going in it. So what's going on? I don't know. It seems like I don't sleep. When I'm home, I'm working on the label. But it's got this sense of purpose that's really fun. It's not just like, oh, you need to make some money, you need to pay the bills. It's kind of like, things have kind of gotten past that, and we got like a lot of things going on. And so everybody's involved. My wife is involved, my kids are involved, my niece is involved, everybody's working. It's turned into this thing that we're gonna do this, and I expect next year to be bigger and better.